So, today we're going to dive into a really deep, symbolic story about transformation. Think of it like a modern parable, one that asks what happens when the things we believe are totally solid and permanent just crack wide open, revealing some kind of blinding truth. This is the alchemy of the uncanny descent. Our story kicks off, as so many great tales do, in a place of deep mystery. The uncanny forest. And you know that feeling of the uncanny, right? It's when something feels familiar, but at the same time just wrong. This forest looks normal, but every shadow is a little too long, and every sound feels just a bit out of tune. And that's the real power of this forest. It takes everything we think we know and gives it a slight twist, forcing us to really see it for the first time. It's right here, in this unsettling spot, that the catalyst for our whole story, a stone gargoyle, begins an absolutely impossible transformation.
And that brings us right to our first stage, the cracking of stone. This is the moment of rupture, the event that shatters reality for the two characters watching all this unfold, a jester and a dragon.
It all starts not with a loud noise, but with a sound that swallows every other sound. A deep pulse starts coming from the stone gargoyle. It's a frequency so pure that it just silences what the story calls deceptive sounds. It's like the hum of absolute truth cutting through all the static and noise of our everyday illusions. Okay, so this whole transformation happens in 4 distinct stages. First, its marble wings, which have been rigid forever, actually start to move. Then a cold, white light begins to seep from its seams. And we're not talking a warm, cozy glow. This is the stark, unforgiving light of truth. Then the stone itself starts to crack, not because it's being destroyed, but to reveal this light from within. And finally, this grotesque stone form is reborn as something fiery and luminous. And this light, it has a name, the Blight of Revelation. It passes right through the jester and the dragon, kind of like how the truth cuts through what the story calls our architecture of convenience. You know, all those little lies and justifications we build around ourselves. It doesn't burn them. It just exposes everything they've been hiding. And what you get is this incredible paradox, the Holy Blight. See, this isn't a curse at all, it's a gift. It's like that painful diagnosis that finally gives a name to what's wrong, which means, for the first time, real healing can actually begin.
So after a revelation like that, the entire journey gets turned on its head. You'd think it would lead our characters up towards some kind of glory, right? Well, that's not what happens. Instead, it sets them on the downward path.
The dragon, watching this whole miracle, asks the question that's on all of our minds. It's the central mystery. Why would stone, something so permanent, give all that up to become fire, something so intense and fleeting? The transformed gargoyle, now called the Fiery Fool, gives this cryptic answer. It says it's not a mirror that just reflects an image back. No, it's a prism. Its whole purpose is to take this simple image a person projects to the world, their performance, and shatter it into the full spectrum of hidden truths it's actually made of. Now, the jester thinks this new power is for some classic hero's journey, you know, a climb to the top. But the fool corrects him, laying out a totally different map. This isn't a hero's climb to go past judgment on the world. It's a soul's descent into a state of just absolute raw honesty. It's not about delivering a verdict, it's about holding a vigil, a quiet watching that finally creates the space for real choice. And this, right here, is the philosophical heart of this whole descent. We're always taught to fear things that might destroy us. But this story suggests something else. It says maybe the real terror lies in completion, in being forced to face and integrate all those hidden shadow parts of ourselves that will, in the end, actually make us whole. And in that moment, it just clicks for the jester. He finally gets his purpose. He isn't the source of the light, and he's not just a mirror reflecting it. He is the angle. His job is to bend the light of truth into all those hidden corners and shadows where it could never shine on its own. So all of this leads us to the emotional core of our story. Because if the journey is really a descent into honesty, well then you have to confront your own imperfections. You have to face the sacred wound. The dragon, having seen this unbelievable transformation and heard all these revelations, asks the most vulnerable and profound question you could imagine. Is our pain, our imperfection, our wound, is that the very thing that's actually a doorway to something sacred? And the Holy Fool's answer just flips everything on its head. It says the wound is not a flaw you need to heal and then forget about.
No, it is the precise point of contact, the sacred meeting place where our fragile, mortal selves get to finally touch the eternal.
This principle actually has a name, the geometry of the grotesque. The idea is that our broken, ugly, misshapen parts aren't actually barriers to the light. They are the doorways. Sometimes a soul is so heavily defended that a grotesque, crooked door is the only kind it's ever willing to open.
With this new perspective, everything just starts to shift. The dragon realizes its own inner fire is the ember that keeps the soul from going out. They both learn that the point of the journey isn't to collect worldly burdens, but to become fertile ground for future revelations. And in this state of clarity, all those deceptive sounds are gone, and for the very first time, every face becomes readable.
And that brings us to our final section, the angle of light. They've been transformed by these revelations, so now what? What do you do once you've seen the truth?
The Holy Fool makes its mission crystal clear. It is not a judge. It's not here to punish or reward anyone. Its entire being is the living, breathing evidence of every single truth that has been left unspoken for ages. It is revelation made flesh. So the fool's role is this beautiful paradox. The human spirit is always asking questions. And the fool, it's the answer that refuses to be a simple answer, which just forces you to question even more deeply. Its laughter isn't mockery. It's that shock of recognition that bubbles up from deep inside the sacred wound. And to be an instrument, then, means you have to accept the heavy weight of witnessing this truth in the world.
And here it is, the final piece of wisdom. This big, unconditional light of truth is out there. It's a gift, available to all of us. But the choice to actually pay attention to the small, uncomfortable ember of that truth inside yourself, well, that's a personal reckoning. No one can do that for you.
And so the jester finds his mission. He turns away from the blinding, direct star of truth. His job isn't to bask in it. His job is to carry the knowledge of its existence, the fact of the burning, down into the shadowy places, into the winding paths of the descent where direct light just can't reach. He becomes the angle of light for others.
And that leaves all of us with a final, pretty provocative question. Our culture always tells us that life is a climb, right? A journey upward to success. But what if this story holds a deeper truth? If the real journey is a descent into radical honesty? What truth is waiting for you at the bottom of your own?